What's cracking, everyone? My name is Ryan, and today I want to talk to you guys about the newly released HarmonicDyne Athena. Now, this is a 50mm dynamic driver, semi-open or semi-closed back headphone, I suppose depending on if you're the half glass empty or half glass full type, depending on which way you want to look at this one. Now, this retails in at $179, and it is the latest in the series of HarmonicDyne products. Now, I owned the HarmonicDyne Zeus and actually ended up selling those a few months back just to continue my journey in headphones. And quite honestly, since I sold them, I have lost that loving feeling. Well, did I gain that back with the Athena? Keep watching, you'll find out. Now I'm going to quickly cover what you get inside the box of the Athena. So the box itself is a nice big blue, just open book style box. You open it up. There's a nice rubberized foam type material that houses the headphones and also houses the accessory box. Inside the accessory box, you're going to get your typical things. You get the cable, you get a 6.3 mil single-ended adapter, as well as a black cotton velour carrying pouch, which is pretty nice for the headphones. And then you also get, which is pretty unique, a gold-plated type coin that will have the HarmonicDyne Athena, the logo on there, as well as the serial number of the headphones, which are also on the headphones as well. All right, and so I think we're going to go ahead now and talk about the build and comfort of the Athena. Now, build-wise, this is pretty much a solid black skeleton, I guess, if you will, of the Athena. It is a hard plastic material. It's got metal, of course, for the band underneath. The headband padding is nice. It's kind of like a t-shirt material on the outside, but then you can definitely tell there's some good padding underneath, and it's pretty comfortable. The top's got this hard textured plastic to it, and then the clicking system for adjusting the headband clicks in and out really well, and it does, if you can hear that, it does show off the HarmonicDyne logo as well as the serial number when you're doing that. The pads are really nice here as well. This is very similar to what we saw on something like the Zeus. It's a suede-like pad, and it does look like they'll be able to be swapped out over time if they wear out, but they're nice and comfortable. And then the last thing I would say is just the artistic design choice here of the Athena is interesting. This is a glass on the cups and glass on the lower part of the headband, which they show up fingerprints, as you can imagine. It's glass. The other thing I would, caution against is if you wear a wedding ring or something like that, be careful not to knock that on here. You could probably scratch the glass. I would worry about dropping these as far as that kind of thing goes as well. But, keep a microfiber cloth nearby like I do, because I wipe these down pretty much every time I use them because I'm just weird about that kind of stuff with fingerprints. But, it's a nice aesthetic choice. It looks nice. Just not so sure I would have chosen glass, but hey, I mean, that's what they chose here, and it does work. And then I would say, as far as the comfort goes, these are 320 grams, so they're not super heavy, and they do distribute the weight nice and even on your head. So at least for my head, I've got a big head, and they are nice and comfortable when I put them on. So I've got no issues whatsoever on the build and comfort. And then before I move on, I do want to mention the cable, because this is probably the nicest cable I have unboxed out of a headphone. That's saying a lot for all the headphones that I've had, that I own now, even without paying the extra cost of an upgrade for the cable. I mean, this is the cable that you get. It's brown, which is an interesting color. It gives it a little pop of color to the black, but it's a dual 3.5 mil connection to the cups. And then it's got 3.5 mil on the other side with that SE adapter that you get. You can obviously use this for any kind of amp, as well, most kinds of amps as far as that goes. And yeah, it's just a super nice cable. Rolls up really nice. It's soft. I love the cable, if you haven't been able to tell there. So, all right. And so technical wise, this headphone is 34 ohms. It's got a sensitivity of 116.5 dB per milliwatt. So it's going to be pretty easy to drive off of pretty much anything here. Phone, laptop. Of course, you can plug it into amps, and I'll talk in a little bit here about some other things I plugged it into as well. And then because it is the semi-closed or semi-open, it does have the nice venting system on there. So when I put these on my head and I was listening to them, there wasn't a lot of sound bleed. Definitely not as much as you'd get out of an open back headphone, but there definitely isn't total isolation either. So, they're spot on in their description of this being semi-closed. The driver system, I'll link this down below for the HarmonicDyne for you to check out, but it is a new type of driver system, a ceramic that they chose here, and it's interesting, and I'll talk about that as we move into sound. So let's do that now. All right, and so the sound of the Athena is something that I grew to appreciate more and more as I listened to them. There are actually some very high quality aspects of the sound for a headphone that is under $200. One of those is the imaging. Now, I remember with the HarmonicDyne Zeus, that was a big point of the Zeus was the imaging, and this is really no different. I mean, to give you guys an example, the track Daughter by Pearl Jam, the remastered version, I was listening to that on Tidal, and during that song, there's a guitar that's in your left ear constantly playing, and you can hear exactly where it's coming from, but also a little bit of the distance there too. And it was just it was pretty neat to hear that and to be able to pinpoint that out to where I was like, wow, these really image a lot like the Zeus did. And then I would say the same thing with instrument separation. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not a high-end planar or something like that, so I'm not talking about that type of instrument separation in detail, but I am talking about the fact that I could listen to tracks on, say somebody like Go-Go Penguin, who, incorporates many, many instruments into their recordings, and I was able to pinpoint out and pick out the different instruments there pretty well with the Athena, and I was impressed by that. And then, I guess moving further on into that, even the soundstage. Now, the Zeus definitely beats this out in soundstage, and I'm not trying to do a comparison of that. It's just, same company, so it's what I think of there. But the stage here is still done well, especially being for semi-closed. Definitely noticed this in gaming on some of the games I've been playing recently. But then outside of that, just listening to live performances, to, big orchestral music, I definitely could get the expanse of the stage around me. It wasn't unnatural, so it wasn't super wide, as I'm saying, but it definitely was not intimate either, and something that I was just, pretty impressed with the Athena. And then I guess I should mention, going through the frequency response, the low end of this, there is I think they said a 4 dB bump at the low end of the Athena, and you can tell that. I think around 20 hertz on a sine test, I was able to actually, hear that bump there, and you can definitely hear that in some tracks that really go down low in the bass. Now, it's not a huge bump. It's not a very deep, rumbly bass by any means, but it's definitely there and present. And I would say, this is not a bloated bass either, so it's got a good low-end presence to it. The mid-range is, I guess, depending on which way you look at it, it's either going to be boring to you or it's going to be exactly what you're looking for. And what I mean by that is it's not scooped out necessarily. It's just more of a kind of a flat response mid-range. It's not elevated in any means, vocalists and things like that. And the upper mid-range, I didn't have any, forwardness to that at all, but I also didn't have them necessarily pushed back. It kind of reminds me of some of the recent IEMs I've listened to. And I think this is kind of a tuning that some companies are trying to go to, is kind of that neutralish tuning in the mid-range, and I was fine with that with this one, because as you get into the high end, this can be good or bad. I did actually get a little bit of a zing or a hiss in the high end. Some voices definitely had a hiss on them, male vocalists for sure. I was hearing that on some vocalists, and then things like cymbals and things like that sometimes would have that, hiss or crash, or just that, extra flare, I guess, at the top. So as far as genres go, I don't necessarily know if I would recommend this for something like metal, just because I don't think it has that speed and decay to keep up with fast music like that. I'm not saying it sounded bad on it, but, you definitely don't necessarily get that. And then, just that punch and slam type nature for, the drums and things. It's okay. It's nothing great. It's not bad. Again, it's just okay. But where I really, really enjoyed these, I feel like I'm repeating myself from the Zeus, was gaming. I loved gaming on these, and I probably will game on these. I think they even look like gamer headphones in a way with the aesthetics that they chose. So I think gamers would like this look to them. Just my personal opinion, but that's definitely something I feel like if you picked up the Athena and you're a gamer, you should definitely check that out, because it does some interesting things with gaming for sure. And so I told you guys I was going to talk about power. Going back to that, I would just say that I drove these off my ADI 2 DAC, used it out on my computer, laptop, but I plugged this into my Liquid Platinum, and I'm not going back. That's how I'm going to listen to this headphone. I got a little bit added warmth out of the liquid platinum, probably a little bit more, maybe just a little bit more stage out of this, but certain tones and instruments had just a little more, not necessarily punch and slam, but just a little more meat to the instrument to it that I liked it on the liquid platinum balanced. Now, that is just me and my personal preference on that. Somebody else may disagree on that, but that's just something that I noticed with this. So you definitely can get some different things out of different DACs and amps. Anybody that tells you you're not going to get that, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to argue that one. I think you're going to have to try that out for yourself because, you know, yeah, I definitely enjoyed this out of the liquid platinum the most, but I still enjoyed it out of my other devices as well because it is very easy to drive. You know, it may sound like I'm just oohing and ahhing over it, and I really am. I do think this is a fantastic headphone for under $200, but where you're going to find the difference, I think, is resolution and just how resolving it is. And I'm going to give you, an example of that instead of just saying that and moving on. So for those of you out there that are wondering about that, the best way I know how to describe that, whether this is something you agree on or not, is so you're going out, you're wanting to buy a nice TV, and maybe, you find something that ends up being 1080 at a good price and it looks really good and you're going to be happy with that TV. Well, that's kind of to me what resolution is too. Like this is almost like a 1080p or even like a 1440p monitor that just looks really good, sounds really good, I should say. But then when you step that up to like a 4K, you get those extra details and that extra pop, and then you're kind of wowed with that. That's how I compare something like this to, say, like a Meze 109 Pro, right? I mean, that is just a more resolving headphone, higher resolution as far as the sound goes, but you also pay for it too. And that's the way I look at this with the Athena. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. It's okay. This was a little bit longer of a review simply because I have really enjoyed the Athena and I wanted to give it its proper due. It is definitely going to be in one of my recommendations for an under $200 headphone. And I haven't heard everything, but I'm really digging this one, guys. I mean, super digging this one. And, if it wasn't for the glass aesthetic, that's probably the one naggle I'll give to it, other than the pads, I would say, too. These types of pads that HarmonicDyne uses over time, if you have oily skin, it's going to stain, things like that, but I think they're going to be swappable, so that's fine. I'm super excited about the Athena. I've enjoyed listening to it. I would recommend it personally, but that is just me, and that's a subjective opinion as there is. So take that with a grain of salt. Hopefully you guys like this video. If so, please smash that like button. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would highly appreciate it if you would, because I definitely have more things that I'll be working on. In the meantime, I'm going to go work on those things. So let you guys get back doing whatever it is that you do. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.